Before we begin, I have an amazing friend whose wheelchair broke and needs money for a new one. If you have any money, please help. Even if it's just $1, every little bit helps. Strike. What's happening? A global reckoning, bitches! In 2020, the group Make Amazon Pay was formed in order to address Amazon's mistreatment of workers, labor violations, destroying the environment, dodging taxes, and so much more. Seriously, there's like 1,000 demands. So, November 26th, 2021, this Black Friday, workers around the globe in 20 countries will stage a 24-hour strike. This strike will target every level of Amazon's business model. Christy Hoffman, UNI Global Union's General Secretary, said, "More and more people are asking more questions about Amazon's brutal anti-union behavior, anti-social tax dodging practices, and obsession with control." As we are seeing all over the world, workers, whether they are coders, pickers, drivers, or UX designers, are marching, striking, and raising their voices together to demand the dignity and respect that comes with a union. Solidarity doesn't scare easily, and Amazon will not break workers' alliances. The Make Amazon Pay Coalition is made up of more than 70 organizations, unions, watch groups, environmentalists, and human rights groups. Make Amazon Pay has planned demonstrations worldwide to highlight how Amazon abuses its workers at every level of their business model. Here's a list of all the planned demonstrations. The Make Amazon Pay Coalition is led by the UNI Global Union, a global union federation made up of 150 unions that represent 20 million workers, and by the Progressive International, an organization that unites left-wing activist groups worldwide. What are their goals? Improve the workplace by raising workers' pay in all Amazon warehouses in line with the increasing wealth of the corporation, including hazard pay and premium pay for peak times. Amazon became a trillionaire company during the pandemic. Jeff Bezos added $24 billion to his already bonkers fortune at the same time that millions of workers are trapped in poverty. Amazon's wealth has increased so much during the pandemic that its owners could pay all 1.3 million of its employees a $690,000 COVID bonus and still be as rich as they were in 2020. Negotiating adequate break time to ensure safe work. According to a study by the Strategic Organizing Center, a coalition of labor unions, after analyzing workplace safety data from OSHA for the years 2017 to 2020, Amazon has an 80% higher rate of injuries than the industry standard. Amazon workers are injured more severely and are forced to take more time off of work to heal. But these numbers might not even be entirely accurate because of the outstanding amount of loopholes when it comes to reporting workplace injuries. My favorite is the one where companies don't need to report injuries if they are able to treat them on site through their own resources. And just coincidentally, Amazon has AmCare to treat its workers on site. I'm sure there is no connection and that Amazon hasn't been hiding data on workplace safety. Suspending the harsh productivity and surveillance regime Amazon has used to squeeze workers, which violates their rights and jeopardizes their safety. The impossible to meet quotas force the workers to go fast. Whether they're the delivery drivers getting into car accidents or the warehouse workers getting maimed by industrial equipment, in order to keep their jobs, they need to meet their rates. And they are constantly being surveilled to make sure they are always working and are productive. And for some reason, workers now need to sign away their right to privacy and allow their every move to be surveilled. No amount of Amazon is going to fix this. Extending paid sick leave to all Amazon workers so that no worker has to choose between their health or their job. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that paid sick leave saves lives. Allowing workers' insights without workplaces' representation to independently elect health and safety commissions, which negotiate with Amazon to ensure a safe pace of work to avoid repeated injury. Maybe if the workers controlled their own rates, less people would get injured and sprayed with bear mace. Disclosing the corporation's protocol for tracking and reporting COVID-19 cases, as well as updated list cases of infection and death among all workers in Amazon warehouses by facility. So, according to Amazon, about 20,000 workers got COVID. But there is significant evidence to suggest that Amazon has been hiding the amount of workers who contracted COVID. Amazon hasn't notified workers of possible exposure, or in cases that they did, they didn't report the number of possible exposures by facilities. They recently settled with California's Attorney General, where they agreed to inform workers and local health agencies within 1 day of exposure. But that was only in California, so there is a real possibility that Amazon is still hiding the amount of workers that contracted COVID and endangering their workers' lives. Provide job security to all by ending all forms of casual employment and bogus self-employment or contractor status. The majority of Amazon workers are independent contractors or hired through third-party companies. How it works is that most people are hired by a temp agency. Then, once they've worked for a certain amount of time, they are officially hired by Amazon. This is a really shady way that Amazon can promise $18 an hour, dental, health insurance, PTO, sick days, etc., but not actually give most of their workers any of that. The majority of Amazon workers quit after a month before they even transfer over to employee status, and the ones that don't can only work for 2 to 3 years due to the extreme toll the job takes on the body. Not to mention, the Amazon Flex drivers are classified as independent contractors despite having no control over their own work and having to follow strict dress codes. Establishing decent, transparent procedures through which workers can voice concerns and criticisms without fear of punishment. Reinstating immediately all workers fired for speaking up about issues concerning the health and safety of Amazon workers and customers, engaging in efforts to organize fellow workers or due to selective enforcement of internal policies. Amazon routinely fires workers for speaking out against them. Give the workers their jobs back. All they did was try to make their workplace safer. It really lays bare Amazon's hypocrisy, that while they claim to care for their workers, they frequently punish workers for pointing out problems that endanger their lives. Respect workers' universal rights by ending union busting, respecting workers' right to organize, and unions' rights to promote workers' interests, and immediately stop all forms of spying on workers and organizers. So Amazon spies on its workers, which the workers were forced to agree to in order to get a job. We need to talk about how employers are able to coerce consent to be continuously monitored from their workers. This goes beyond tracking productivity on their scanners. Amazon literally hired a spy agency. Pinkerton Spy Agency is infamous for its anti-union efforts. Amazon has cameras in front of the union offices to record how many workers approach the office. They then use this information to decide how best to respond to locations with pro-union sentiments. They also spied on their workers to see if they were having hushed conversations, group huddles, dawdling in the bathroom, or conversations that died out when managers approached. These were all signs that the workers were harboring pro-union sentiments. Amazon installed video cameras in their vans that record their drivers and report to the managers anytime a driver looks away from the road, whether to yawn, blink, or check directions. The drivers are classified as independent contractors and are therefore meant to be free of surveillance, or else they'll have to be classified as employees. Giving unions access to Amazon worksites to inform workers on the benefits of unionization so that all workers can freely choose whether to join a union without any fear of retaliation. Workers are free to organize and join a union. The NLRB lays out the guidelines for when and where a worker can engage in union activities. One guideline is that if solicitation is allowed in any manner on the premises, then union organizing is allowed as well. So if your coworker was able to sell those candy bars for their dear child's shitty school fundraiser without interference from the managers, then you are allowed to spread pro-union literature. Unfortunately, this doesn't stop Amazon from cracking down on pro-union sentiment by firing or punishing workers who wish to join a union. Bargaining with unions wherever they are present in order to reach collective agreements on the conditions and terms of workers' employment at Amazon. Amazon has flat out refused to bargain with unions. Ensuring workers' rights throughout Amazon's supply chains globally. When it comes to supply chains, the acquisition/making of goods is subcontracted out, then subcontracted out, then subcontracted out, and so on and so on. This moves the onus of responsibility further down the line, and large companies like Amazon can claim that it's impossible for them to keep an eye on every level of their supply chain. So those human rights violations like sweatshops, child labor, and slave labor is totally not their fault. There's just no way that a trillionaire company could hire extra workers to inspect every level of their supply chain. Trillionaires don't have that much power.
You silly goat!
Sharing power with workers, for instance, by welcoming worker representatives elected by their colleagues in different management levels, and by increasing options for workers to receive not only shares in the corporation but also voting rights so that the company moves towards a model of democratic governance. Workplace democracy! Let's go, baby! Operate sustainably by committing to zero emissions by 2030. Amazon has announced its intention to reduce all emissions to zero by 2040, but they've been able to self-regulate, so we all know how that goes. Companies have never lied about their greenhouse gas emissions. Ending all custom Amazon Web Services contracts for fossil fuel companies to accelerate oil and gas extraction. At the same time that Amazon pledges their company will reach zero emissions by 2040, they have maintained their partnerships with fossil fuel companies in order to make oil drilling and fracking more efficient and to find large pockets of fossil fuels. Ending Amazon's complicity in environmental racism, including by transitioning to electric vehicles first in communities most impacted by the corporation's pollution. Environmental racism is a huge topic, one that I will address in a future video. But the gist is that since POC people have less political power, they can't fight to stop junkyards, factories, gas plants, etc. from being built in their backyard, and this results in poor health outcomes. One example is that poorer countries cannot fight large recycling companies from shipping their plastics to that country and polluting the waterways and burning the plastics, polluting the air people breathe. Stopping all sponsoring of climate change denial. More hypocrisy. Amazon funds think tanks that spread climate change denial nonsense, specifically the Competitive Enterprise Institute that has run ad campaigns claiming that CO2 is not pollution, but is actually beneficial to life. Trump, who was a president, weird, chose the CEI director to lead the EPA. Amazon has also donated a shit ton of money to Congress members to vote against climate change legislation. Engaging workers who have a right to know how their employer will operate sustainably through a just transition process. They just want transparency. How is Amazon helping to stop climate change? Pay back to society by paying taxes in full in the countries where the real economic activity takes place, ending tax abuse through profit shifting, loopholes, and the use of tax havens, and providing full tax transparency. Amazon, with its legion of tax accountants, has the resources needed to find and exploit every tax loophole. They don't necessarily pay zero taxes, but the amount they pay is close to zero. They pay approximately 0% to 1.2% of their income, and some years they manage to pay a negative percent, which means they've received refunds from the government on top of the tax breaks they already get. $1 trillion company receiving tax refunds. What the Amazon benefits from public programs like public schools, childcare, roads, infrastructure, food stamps, homeless shelters, internet infrastructure, public transportation, postal service, and more. Yet they take advantage of all public good programs and give nothing back while driving small businesses into the ground, completely tanking community economies. They are a giant leech, sucking out all of society's lifeblood. Ending partnerships with police forces and immigration authorities that are institutionally racist. Amazon Web Services hosts the Palantir software and databases that ICE uses to hunt down undocumented immigrants. Amazon has even pitched a facial recognition software called Rekognition to identify undocumented immigrants and allow for deportations without due process. Amazon also provides AI to police forces to use as they will. Amazon claims that it only provides the AI and has no responsibility for how it is used. Sure you don't. Ceasing anti-competitive business practices that lead to monopolization. Amazon is a monopoly. There is no doubt about that. And it is a continually growing monopoly as it expands into pharmacies, health insurance, worker towns, and more. And nearly all companies who want to sell online are dependent on Amazon, a power that Amazon most definitely does not abuse. They only use that power to control which people can see what products and force larger and larger cuts from small businesses to use Amazon services. Just a day ago, the Italian government fined Amazon and Apple $235 million for controlling the resales of Apple and Beats products. Guaranteeing transparency over the privacy and use of consumers' data, including Alexa/Echo devices, streaming, and cloud services. Guaranteeing privacy and confidentiality of all Internet of Things applications and software produced by or sold via Amazon, including Alexa/Echo devices, streaming, and cloud services. Amazon is also in the information business and is continually gathering data on everyone: its workers, its shoppers, its sellers, people going by the homes of its workers, shoppers, and sellers, and of course, union representatives as well as undocumented immigrants. Amazon was found to be in violation of the EU's General Data Protection Regulations, and they are under review by the EU for giving themselves an unfair advantage through the use of the data they collect. Stopping the development, deployment, and sale of devices and software that expand mass surveillance practices such as Amazon Ring and facial recognition/biometric software such as Rekognition. Police and ICE are already salivating over getting their greasy fingers on Rekognition, but there is another issue at stake. Currently, there is no legislation in America protecting your biometric data. In fact, you do not own your fingerprint, retinal scan, facial scan, or voice code. The company that scans your face, finger, eye, or voice owns your face, finger, eye, or voice. I hate this capitalist hellscape we live in. If Amazon is able to expand, they will own people's bodies, unless you go through the complicated process of copyrighting your body. Amazon's response to Make Amazon Pay's coalition's demands has been to say, these groups represent a variety of interests, and while we are not perfect in any area, if you objectively look at what Amazon is doing in each one of those areas, you'll see that we do take our role and our impact very seriously. We are inventing and investing significantly in all these areas, playing a significant role in addressing climate change with the climate pledge commitment to be net zero carbon by 2040. Continuing to offer competitive wages and great benefits, and inventing new ways to keep our employees safe and healthy in our operations network, to name just a few. Anyone can see for themselves by taking a live virtual tour at our sites. So Amazon's response was basically a bunch of nonsense. How do we support the workers? Share, donate, sign up for notifications. Also check to see if there is a demonstration in your area. You can do all these things by going to makeamazonpay.com. Amazon has fucked over our environment, our people, its workers, governments. They spend a fortune in lobbying money all around the globe, and democracy itself. They turn around and pretend they care so much about their workers when they treat them like machines and push them so much that their bodies break down after 2 to 3 years. They have slave and child labor in their supply chains, and they pollute without a care in the world. Amazon has to pay. Well, I was stuck in bed and you were stuck here with me. But now you may go and live your lives. Go, be cute, keep gay, be crime. Bye!
Julie, do the thing.
Don't freak out. It's not real.